impression of you is made of the bare bones of what they've seen. You are a different character in the mind of each person who knows you because they're seen, fleshed out by their knowledge of themselves. That's from Gwynder Bogle. So the lonely chapter has another perspective to it, which is, as you grow, you don't fit in with your friends, but this means that they don't fit in with you either. This causes a reaction from their side too. The hardest part of changing yourself isn't just improving your own habits, it's escaping the people who keep handing you your old costume. Others don't just remember who you were, they enforce it, which is why reinvention so often feels like trying to break out of a prison that you can't see. Psychologists call this dynamic an object relation. So when people interact with you, they're not engaging with you in your full living complexity. They're dealing with the version of you that exists in their head, a simplified character built from fragments of memory and colored by their own projections. In object relations theory, an object isn't a thing, it's just an internalized image of another person. We don't just carry people as they are, we carry a mental sketch, which is why if you make a radical change, you'll usually meet resistance. Your transformation destabilizes the representation that the people around you are attached to. So they try to nudge you back into the familiar role that they know. Charles Horton Cooley called this the looking glass self. We come to know ourselves by seeing our reflection in the eyes of other people. And if those mirrors keep reflecting the old you, it's hard to step into a new one. In social psychology, self-verification theory shows that people prefer interactions that confirm what they already believe about themselves and about you. If you disrupt this script, you introduce friction. In this one study, participants with poor self-image chose to interact with people who criticized them rather than praised them, meaning that even people with low self-esteem often prefer others to treat them in ways that confirm their pessimistic self-view, because negative consistency feels safer than optimistic unfamiliarity. If that is true for how we see ourselves, imagine how much other people cling to their picture of you. Before his conversion, St. Augustine was notorious for chasing pleasure, indulgence, and distraction, and after his dramatic turn to faith, he struggled to convince old friends that he was no longer the same man. They resisted not just out of skepticism, but because the new Augustine didn't fit the story they had of him. In Fitzgerald's novel, Jay Gatsby began life as James Gatz, a poor farm boy desperate to escape his origins. He tried to reinvent himself into a dazzling millionaire, but no matter how hard he works at it, the people around him reduce him back to the upstart outsider. His reinvention collapsed under the weight of their collective refusal to update their vision of him. Nelson Mandela started as a fiery revolutionary against apartheid, and when he walked out of prison after 27 years, his followers expected him to emerge hardened and vengeful, and instead, he embodied reconciliation. But that reinvention only truly stuck once he stepped onto the world stage, far beyond the circles that had known the old Mandela. David Bowie began as a struggling musician in London, trying to make a name for himself in a conventional scene. His breakthrough was constant self-reinvention. He does Ziggy Stardust, The Thin White Duke, and tons more. But each transformation often required leaving behind one circle, one city, one audience, because the people who knew him too well couldn't help but cling to the previous Bowie. St. Paul had once been Saul, infamous for persecuting Christians with unrelenting zeal. After his conversion, he became their fierce advocate. But many believers couldn't trust him. They couldn't stop seeing the old Saul, and it took years of travel and new communities before his new identity as Paul was accepted. And in ordinary life, this script repeats as well. The friend who quits drinking was once the reliable partner in crime, but then newfound sobriety unsettles the group and throws everyone else's bad habits into harsh contrast. The shy colleague who becomes confident was once predictable in their quietness, so their assertiveness now reads as arrogance. The young adult who comes home at Christmas was once an awkward teenager. However, no matter how much they've grown, the family still insists on infantilizing them. The podcaster who had a shaved head for 5 years gets a ton of stick for having a perm after he grows his hair out, despite his curls totally being natural and suiting his face and being quite a masculine haircut if you think about it for a while. TLDR, many people don't like you because making positive changes is effortful to keep up with, and it's threatening to their shortcomings. So they dissuade you from doing it, which is why meaningful change so often requires escaping your environment. Change isn't just about building a new self. It's about escaping the gravitational pull of the selves that exist in other people's minds. It is odd to look at the lonely chapter from the other side, right? Okay, I got this thing and I am compelled to go back to the old patterns, the old habits, the old ways of thinking. I'm going to do this thing because it's going to make me feel more accepted by my friends. Well, acceptance, it makes me feel more accepted by my friends. I am struggling to relate to them, but that means that they are struggling to relate to you, and they have their own motives and motivations also. Like, they are not passive participants in it. They're changing as well. And the change that they have is typically trying to pull you back to the old vision that they've got of you, because it's effortful. And maybe it gives a little bit more empathy around why people are sort of, feels like they're stuck in their old ways a little bit. Maybe it helps us to understand why we get less support for the changes that we want to make than we might prefer. But either way, it's certainly kind of, if the lonely chapter feels a little bit like you being trapped inside of a glass orb, this is what it looks like peering in from the outside. So I thought that was quite cool.
Sometimes we don't realize how far we've come until we stop and look back. The struggles, the sleepless nights, the small victories no one noticed, they all added up piece by piece to bring you right here to this moment. And maybe today's video reminded you of something familiar, a dream you're still chasing, a mistake you've made, or a lesson that life tried to teach you in the hardest way possible. We all fall, we all fail, and we all have days when we don't see the point anymore. But somehow, we keep going. Because deep down, there's a small voice that whispers, "This can't be the end." Life isn't about being perfect. It's about learning, unlearning, breaking, and rebuilding again and again. Maybe that's what growth really means. Not racing ahead, not proving something to the world, but finding peace with where you are, and still having the courage to move one step further. If this video made you pause, even for a second, take that as a sign to breathe, to think, to feel. Drop a comment below and share what this moment meant to you. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because your story matters too. And if you found a little light here today, don't forget to hit the like button. It helps more than you know. Subscribe to stay connected, because every story we share here carries one reminder. You're not alone, and your journey still has chapters waiting to be written. Until next time, take care of your heart, your dreams, and your fire. Keep going, slowly, quietly, but with purpose. You're doing better than you think.